Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we are joined by Zach. Zach has a fascinating story about how he took his journey through the Marine Corps, through some bad debt, and eventually got to a place where he is fully unplugged. And won't steal his thunder, but we'll let him explain a little bit about what that means and how that has come to fruition for him. But Zach, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah. So again, my name is Zac Juergensen. I'm host of the DIY Wealth podcast. Easiest way to, I guess, explain it is I like to field people's questions and have an episode every week. So kind of think Dave Ramsey-ish, where people call in or direct message on Instagram and I answer. I don't agree with everything and every stance he has. I have different perspectives, which, Liam and I will get into on this. But essentially not an ego stroke, not meant to, just be a braggart, if you will, but went from a significant amount of debt in my early 20s to amassing a net worth of $1 million by 31. And a combination between the retirement accounts and small businesses I have and other cash flowing assets that I can utilize today, I've designed a life where essentially I don't have to work full time anymore. I can kind of pursue more of my own interests and passions. And having that level of freedom in life, as long as you're not over consuming in the world of capitalism that tells you to constantly consume, it's a very beautiful space to be in.
So let's jump right into that. I guess, how did you realize that you were in this position of quote unquote bad debt? And what were some of those steps that you took to get to the place that you're at today?
So with the bad debt, nothing was really registering in my head as a younger kid. Nothing was clicking. But after I did a combat tour over to Afghanistan and we lost an individual, we lost a bomb dog, like there was just something finally registered in my head, like, holy crap, I'm not invincible. I'm young. Life can just immediately disappear in front of your eyes in a split second. And for whatever reason, it was like, I need to start applying myself. So I had a year left in the Marines. And I was like, well, I definitely don't want to keep doing this anymore. So I just started picking up books. I picked up journalism books. I picked up science books. I picked up finance books. I picked up real estate books. And for whatever reason, like finance just really stuck with me. And the book I ended up reading was like the little book on big dividends. It's like this, it's the easiest read. Like you don't need to have any base knowledge in finance in order to grasp the concepts in this book. So I was like, okay, well, I guess this is what I need to start doing. So it was like 2011 and you could have thrown blindly at a dartboard any ticker and you would have made money, but like I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I was just like, well, Bank of America, I see Bank of America everywhere, like that's probably something. Did zero due diligence, just threw money for 10 shares in the market and roller coastered all day. I'm looking at it and I'm like, damn it, I'm losing money. Okay, now I'm up, like super emotional, back and forth, I'm down. Market ends up closing and I have $4.14 more than I did. And that just registered in my head. I was like, holy crap, you can have your money make you money and not do a single thing that day, and it still makes you money. I don't need to actively go do anything to make money. And from there, fast forward to today, that's the defining moment on how I got where I got.
So what were some of the steps that you had to take along the way, right? So obviously you had this, a couple big life events and cathartic moments, right, where you had these realizations. What were some of the actions that you took, right? A lot of our listeners have their own businesses. Um, how did you start moving in that direction to feel unplugged, right? And how do you define unplugged?
Yeah, so I'll clarify that term since we're using it, and then I'll get into your question. So if you think about it, like retirement is a relatively new concept to humans. Like I would say maybe our great grandparents, our great grandparents, great grandparents, grandparents, and our parents, like these are the people that have experienced retirement. Historically, as a human, you work, and then you die. And then your life expectancy is really short and things like that. So we're still trying to really figure out what retirement looks like, but it's been associated essentially with the tail end of your life. I didn't like that. And so I refer to it, the term, if you're younger and you're not retiring in your 60s, your mid 60s, or whatever that looks like for you, and you retire in your 30s, your late 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your early 50s, I deem or view that more as unplugging. You're unplugging from a system that has told you work, 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 and then we'll give you some semblance of security at the tail end of your life, and we'll call it retirement. So when you hear Liam and I going back and forth on that is the term unplugged to me. To your question, yes. What I started realizing as I kept working and stuff like that and pushing money into retirement accounts is this is cool, but I can't access this stuff until I'm 60. And so, like, while that's great for my really old future self, that doesn't really help me design the life I want to live right now. So I got into real estate sales. I started owning real estate rentals. I have a portfolio of rental properties. I recently just invested in a jewelry company for a very talented individual. He just, unfortunately, a series of unfortunate events, but we were able to work something out. I'm identifying some other things too, as well as a traditional, I know this is more business focused, but for people that want additional perspective, pushing a bunch of money into a traditional brokerage account and being able to collect dividends off of it, that is an absolute another way to manage your money and create an additional stream of income for yourself. So, but my big bread and butter is definitely managing my real estate portfolio. And if you think about it, it's a small, each one of your pieces of real estate is a small business. There are fixed costs. There are variable costs. There are, you have rental income. Can I charge more for my services next year? What's the net cash flow look like off of that now? So, and I'm still working on the jewelry business stuff right now. We're waiting for some, product to come from China to help this individual out. Wish I had that up and running a little bit more so we could dive into that a little bit more. But that's essentially, from the Marine Corps investing money to realizing I need to have access to cash flow and retained earnings and other things like that I can utilize and pour into, whether it's the business or my own personal life, where I want to be and how I want to design it.
So it sounds like a couple of different revenue sources coming from, investment in companies with what you're doing with the jewelry company, a lot of it primarily coming from real estate portfolio and management there. How do you determine what the right number is to be unplugged?
Great question. So that's different for everyone. And the thing I always ask people is, so I have, a Patreon account and I do one-on-one financial coaching. And I pair it with more deeper thought and philosophy, and just to help people merge what a happier life, what a better life, what a more joyful, what a more content life looks like with reasonable financial freedom. And I always just start with people, what would you do today if you passively knew you had enough cash coming in? What does that life look like for you? And people really struggle with that question. But what I have found, and I've probably asked close to 50 people at this point, the sweet spot for people to move past this financial filter in their life is about $6,000 to $8,000 a month passively coming in, which is fairly doable. I mean, and the more I talked to people, the more I walked off of what I wanted. I wanted $12,000 a month passively coming in. I'm at about 8. By the time I raise rents in January, I'll be at just under, I think I'll be at like 7.9K a month coming in. And that's going to continue to grow. It's not like I'm just staying there. I've designed a life where I'm able to still continue to invest in business and in the stock market and things like that, while still living comfortably, because I'm just not in this insane consumption mode. And so for people that, it's different. If you want to go buy a yacht and live in the Mediterranean and eat pizza every day on it, like, you're going to require a lot more money for your unplugged number than someone that's okay fly fishing on a river in Montana. So it's really about just identifying the things you really enjoy doing in life. And that's hard to do when you're constantly worried about money, or you're constantly just mindlessly consuming things, which Americans have gotten really good at doing.
What tips or advice do you have for level setting or baselining or turning off that consumption, right? Because I mean, it's all the media pushes, right? And it's all your friends push, right? In terms of, there's a new Tesla driving down the street, or we're out of space, we need more space at home, right? You've got more kids, right? We need to grow. And so it's all about more, 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 bigger, bigger, bigger. And that's what you hear all day long, right? So how do you, tips and tricks that you use to, I guess, live in your own world?
Yeah, so I actually read a fun fact or something like that. I think last year there was 7 trillion internet ads. Like that is an absurd number. Like I don't even think people realize how big a trillion is. Like we hear that word, but I mean that is such a gargantuan number even compared to a billion, and a billion's a massive thing. So, yeah, to your point, we get hammered with advertising nonstop. And do we get hammered with some good advertising? Absolutely. But a lot of the advertising is targeted and geared towards your insecurities and fears and concerns in life, like, oh, I need to get this stroller, otherwise I'm not a good parent, or I need to get this car in order to exude that I am successful to my neighbors, or I need to get this house in order to, and that just goes on and on and on. The easiest way, I shouldn't say the easiest, but the best way to start with shifting that mindset is understanding when someone drives past in a Ferrari or whatever, imagine whatever car you really want, a nice Ford Raptor, a Ferrari, whatever that car is. Imagine it driving past you on the highway, and you look at it and you want it because it's something you really want. Your immediate thought isn't, damn, that person's really cool, I should become their friend, they're awesome. No, you don't care about the person in the actual car. You care about the object. And the same thing rings true for, girls. Like, there's a nice Louis Vuitton bag. The girls don't go, man, I really want to be her friend, she looks really cool. No, they just care about the object, the purse. And so instead of coming from a place where you're seeking external validation from people, like, why do you like that Ford Rapper? Why do you like that Ferrari? Is it because you want to exude a level of success or XYZ or dot, dot, dot to external variables and forces and people that genuinely don't know about you and probably don't even care about you? Or are you doing it genuinely because it's an item or an object that's going to enhance your life dramatically for you, not for everyone else and what you're expecting everyone else to think about you? You got to stop building out that false narrative in your head and start building out the narrative that really matters in your head and your heart.
Are there any sort of tests or questions that you ask yourself to try to determine if it's, truly your own narrative in your head and your heart versus what someone else is projecting on you?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to, because, the only way to truly do that would to be like, go live by yourself in a shack for like a year, because we're constantly getting hammered with external variables. Like you wake up in the morning, you check your phone, you check your email, you check your work email, you see some stuff on Instagram, you see some stuff on Facebook, whatever. Now you got to take care of work. Now you got to go take care of the coffee. The dog's barking. You got to take the dog out. The kids are late for school. And before you know it, you're filled with so many thoughts that externally that aren't even yours. It's just the, stimulation that's happening around you. You don't even have time to think about yourself. So the best way I would say you can do what I'm trying to execute on better and what I think everyone should execute on better is getting some alone time and really trying to just meditate. Not for a long period of time. Like I try and do 20 minutes and it's hard. Like you just focus on breathing in, breathing out, and you would be amazed at some of the rewiring and creativity that's generated within your brain by sitting in your own thoughts. That is literally the only way I've been able to do it. But before you know it, by the end of the day, all of that has been washed away by all the just external stimuli.
Definitely tons of external stimuli. So you talked about life design, right? You talked about that unplugged number. What do you do when that unplugged number changes, right? So obviously you're managing a portfolio today. What happens if kids come along, or mom gets sick and you want to take care of mom, right? And now you need a bigger number. What do you do and how do you go about addressing that?
That's actually a great question. One I've never really thought about, but immediately what comes to my mind is capitalism and the opportunity to make more money will always be there. Like I could tomorrow go, I understand there's more objects over there. I understand there's more money over there. I understand there's more corporate jobs over there. I understand dot, dot, dot. I can dive right back into that big, deep pool if I wanted to. Can we play devil's advocate here? Well, you've been out of work for 5 years. Your experience and your skills aren't as sharp. Sure. I'm just saying, it's not like once you close that door, you can't open it right back up. Capitalism would welcome you right back into buying a bunch of stuff and also, working again. So
it sounds like it's and I'm making some assumptions here, so correct me if I have misinterpreted, but there's a phase where you've got to engage in the system as it is today to build enough wealth or available dollars to be able to go invest, to create the passive income, to get to your number. And if the number has to change for whatever reason, then it's a re-engagement back into that system, generate, a lump sum that you can then take and reinvest to create more passive income.
Yeah, one thing on the beginning part of that statement, you could unplug tomorrow, but like homelessness just doesn't look comfortable for me. Like you really could. I'm not saying you have to do this. You have to work within this construction of what capitalism is and, do what I'm doing or do what you're doing, Liam. But sleeping under a bridge and panhandling for money doesn't sound comfortable for me. So, you can unplug immediately, but where I'm trying to, operate in is, hey, you don't have to be a perpetual worker bee. You also don't have to be homeless. You can really identify some things you want to do in your life and figure out how you want to live it, work within the constructs of capitalism, realize you can achieve this if you just walk off of a lot of consumption you do, and then kind of go do whatever you want in life.
If you had to re-engage with the capitalist structure, where would you look first to try to get that, biggest pop of lump sum dollars with shortest amount of effort for yourself, right? Obviously, likely specific to each person and their skill set and knowledge, right? But from your experience, where would you go to get that money to, boost your passive income streams?
Sure. I mean, for me, like I'm hearing, and again, you hear this everywhere. You hear it in the stock market, you hear it in real estate, you hear it in the cryptocurrency market, like, oh, so and so got a 2000% return. And like, it's just these like home run stories. And so, you know, I am looking at cryptocurrencies more because it is such a new and foreign space. And do I think some people are going to make them a lot of money? Yeah. Do I think they could be the next Beanie Babies? I don't know if you remember those things. There was just a huge rush and run on Beanie Babies. You remember those things? Like
I've
people were
got boxes and boxes in my attic.
people were fighting over those things. And what are they today? Nothing. Like no one cares. So could cryptocurrency be Beanie Babies? Absolutely. The other side of the pendulum is, could it literally become the new currency that's used and effectively the value of a dollar falls to zero? Could it? I'm saying could it? Yes. Those are both extreme scenarios that I'm giving, and I don't think either of those are going to happen. I think it's going to fall somewhere in the middle. I think there is going to be a place for it within the financial realm, and a couple of them are going to be, do very well. But there are so many of them out there, and the regulations are so not there that, it's a little bit of the Wild West. So while I'm looking at it extremely speculatively with the hope of actually making, some really good money off of it. If you're someone that's starting to build your financial house out, do not just blindly start running into the crypto space, like mutual funds, ETFs, starting your own business, buying real estate, buying a primary house, renting some of the rooms out. Like these are things you should be doing to build your financial house out relative to what I'm talking about, because you asked me that question. I just want to clarify that to your audience members.
It brings up another thought for me. So that the unplugged number that you have, how is that allocated, right? Is that all 100% kind of cost of living and supporting lifestyle? Or is there a portion of that that you say, hey, I need to earn, of that 8,000, at least 2,000 gets reinvested? Or kind of how does that break down for you?
Yeah. So essentially, like I said, when I raise rents, in January on my rental properties. I have about 7.9K. Let's see, I'm just doing quick math in my head. So car, mortgage, electricity, groceries. So about 35% of that goes to my fixed costs. And then, the other, 40% will go to just, traveling the world. I've gotten into photography. I want to, I'm planning on doing a beautiful train ride up for 20 days up the coast of California, up into Seattle and taking photo. And then the remaining amount of that is allocated towards pushing more money into investments, whether it's saving up for another rental property, investing in another small business that I see. So yes, I'm always leaving money in reserve to continually keep growing it. Now, does that mean I'm truly unplugged? I mean, you could argue yes, you could argue no, but that's what I need to do in order to feel safe, secure, and reduce my anxiety in life.
So it sounds like, obviously, if you're running numbers off the top of your head, you've got a budget somewhere. You've got a clear understanding of fixed and variable costs.
Yep.
You kind of know what you're going to spend, right? And it sounds like 35. So you've got about 30% that you're reinvesting, 70% that you're living off of, half of which is fixed, half of which is variable.
Yep.
And kind of using that as a guiding principle.
And what I tell people too, even if you're not in my position, investing 30% of your income isn't probably the easiest thing to achieve. But so is working until you're 75. So which one do you want? Pick your poison,
Any feedback or words of advice you would have for the audience? So I know you had mentioned Little Books of Big Dividends. Are there other things along your journey that have been super impactful for you? Whether it was, training programs, books, conversations, et cetera, that, might help people accelerate their journey?
Yeah. So one is completely off topic of what we're talking about, but I still advocate for people that are hurting in this realm. And it's called The Power of Letting Go. And it just teaches you to quit letting the past drag you around, and really reframes the idea of what forgiveness should be like in your life. And to your audience members, I do it on every interview, but I was the victim of child abuse. I had to testify against my parents in court. My brother and I didn't have an easy life growing up. And so I understand I'm really blasting a horn of financial freedom and stuff like that. But if there is someone listening to your podcast that is struggling with that, reach out to me. I have dealt with that. And I finally overcame that hump probably a year and a half ago. And a lot of that was because of that book. Regarding financial books, what's a recent one that I've read that's really good? I didn't read a financial book recently, but one of the other ones I liked was Made to Stick, and it's for advertising and marketing. And so if you're someone that's really, especially business, so people listening to business, this is very relevant actually. So yeah, it talks about just what is a good messaging? How many times does someone need to hear a messaging before it's something they can draw from their brain again? What colors would be associated with good messaging based on the business you're doing? So Made to Stick is a very good book as well, and very relevant for your audience.
Yeah, Made to Stick, I believe, is by Malcolm Gladwell. And
Yes.
Some of the stuff that he puts out and the studies that he's done and the way he thinks about things are very informative, definitely a leader in the space, and phenomenal book. As how do ideas stick? How do revolutions start, right?
Yep.
And just the different perspectives that he takes is really cool to see. As we're wrapping up here, Zach, what's the best way for the audience to be able to reach out, right? You obviously said if someone's hurting in that area, to reach out to you. What's the best way for them to connect and to be able to find you?
Yeah, so I'm assuming you'll go ahead and grab all my links and stuff too. But basically, if you want to call into the podcast during live podcast hours, which I have on my website, which is Zac Juergensen, it's ZACJUERGENSEN.com. The phone number is 602-767-1507. You can call in the podcast. If you don't want to be on the podcast, because for whatever reason, I'm realizing some people get jittery because they don't want to be, publicly talking or whatever. That's fine. My creator account on Instagram, where I give bite-sized pieces of information daily, is at Zac Juergensen, ZACJUERGENSEN. And then finally, if you're looking for one-on-one coaching and things like that, head over to my Patreon account. Again, just type in Zac Juergensen the exact way I've just spelled it twice. And you can, for $10.56 a month, I will give you all of my positions in the market, all of my real estate deals, what they look like, how they're cash flowing, what my total assets are, what my total liabilities are. So like, you guys can realize like I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Like I'm not going to be someone that's hiding what I'm doing, because I want to empower everyone else on their wealth journey. And the reason I chose $10.56 a month, it's literally the cost of a large Frappuccino and a ham and Swiss sandwich, including tax at Starbucks. I am asking you to forego one Starbucks breakfast, and I will help you on your journey to identifying your unplugged number.
Very nice, Zach. We appreciate the insights, appreciate the time today, and look forward to staying connected with you.
Yeah, no, Liam, I appreciate you taking some time. I know, we went back and forth for a couple of weeks. I'm like, man, this guy probably hates me because we can't land a time. And so I woke up this morning. I was like, okay, we're ready. We're good. I've had my coffee. I'm all set. So I do really appreciate your patience. I think what you're doing on your end is very good, especially for small business owners and people that do want to grow it. But I like that you identified with me and were able to go, you know what, like, while people are growing and building their business, maybe they could learn a couple things from this individual. So I do appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach. Take care.
All right. Have a good one, Liam.